I'm basically there. I just got this final push to go. Can do like 3 steps before I stop.
Mount Elbert is the tallest mountain in the Rockies and the second tallest in the lower 48. It's one that I've wanted to ride for quite some time, and finally found the right opportunity to go for it. Today we start super early. We're gonna head over to Mount Elbert to hopefully summit it. Oh wow, it's cold. So we have to make it up to the top of Elbert before noon. Afternoon showers are a risk at that elevation. You don't want to get caught in a thunderstorm when you're above 14,000 feet with absolutely nothing to shield you. So we are hoping that by leaving at 5 a.m. we'll be there by 6:30 and hopefully be at the summit by noon. A relatively short drive from Breckenridge through the town of Leadville, home to the world famous race series of the same name, and we would make it to the South Elbert Trailhead. The ride itself would take us through fire roads, lush single track in the Colorado aspen forests, and make its way above the treeline to the rocky terrain that gives this mountain range its name, eventually topping out at 14,439 feet after dealing with hike-a-bike, snow, and significant fitness challenges from the elevation. The ride back down would follow the same route with the exception of a small detour towards the end to enjoy the Colorado Trail as we got close to the trailhead. So we've made it to the trailhead. There's quite a bit of snow, as you can see in those peaks over there. We're going up there, it looks okay. So I hope it works. If we have to turn back, we will turn back. It is so cold right now. It's like 34 degrees if I'm not mistaken. Time to get the bikes off and head out. How are you feeling, Angel?
I am cold and don't want to get out of the car. Ever.
Right.
In my life.
Let's just stay here. Ricardo can go up and get the pictures. Back down. Eventually we'll hit the single track, but for now, we will just pedal this, take it easy, bask in the views, and try to enjoy this insanity. Starting from the South Elbert Trailhead, the start of the ride isn't particularly technically challenging. It is, however, quite steep of a fire road. The first mile has about 500 feet of climbing. It is possible to park at another trailhead further up, but it kind of felt like cheating. This being a bucket ride list for us, we decided to embrace it fully and not cut any corners. This is one of those very rare occasions where summiting the peak had me more excited than the actual ride down. How about you, Angel? How's it going?
It's going. I left Miami for this. Beaches and warm weather. For no oxygen.
And the beauty of the mountains, you can't complain.
Amazing! No regrets.
It didn't take long to get to enjoy the beauty of the aspens in fall with their yellow foliage that tints everything in your vision, covering the trees and ground with this very unique yellow that is so hard to catch at its peak, where the single track remains visible not by the path on the ground, but by the space between the trees. As we got to the first clearing, it was possible to see the yellow aspens from above, and our starting point in the distance between the 2 large lakes below. Unfortunately, even if it looks amazing in video, it's absolutely impossible to capture the feeling of being there in the moment. You can see the snow-covered mountain right there. Not exactly sure if that's where we're going or not, but that is a lot of snow. Do you know where the peak is? Yeah? So it's none of that very snowed stuff? Pretty sure we're still gonna hit some snow. As we gained elevation, we continued to alternate between pushing the bike and pedaling. While it's permitted to ride this trail, this is still focused primarily on hiking. So on the way up, there's quite a few steps that are near impossible to ride, and if they are doable, it's just worth conserving that energy. It's not too cold. I mean, when the wind hits, it's chilly, but it's manageable. With the temperature this morning, I was a little bit scared. So at this point, we're just shy of 12.5. And the views are getting amazing. You can see all the snow there in the background. Now we have to now climb up to basically that point up there, and we're kind of going to go around there. This is definitely a big challenge, but I'm feeling better than I expected. Video doesn't seem to capture it well, but these pictures convey in a much clearer way the enormity of the mountains and how tiny we really are in comparison. It really isn't hard to understand why they were revered as deities in some cultures. We're on the shaded face of the mountain, much less sun hitting on this side. You can tell the snow, a lot more of it around here. It's also very cold.
I had to get my jacket back out. I don't know what the actual temperature difference is, but it is very noticeable. Starting to carry the bikes now.
Around 13,000 feet, the combination of the narrow, rocky, hiking-centric trail and the abundance of snow on key spots, it started to make more sense to carry the bike through some sections than to push. This is also my personal elevation struggle point. Everyone is different, but I really start to struggle after 13K. It really does feel like trying to breathe through a straw. As much as you gasp, the air just doesn't seem to carry enough oxygen in it. Living at sea level probably doesn't help me with this either.
Oh yeah, I feel the elevation too. This is quite challenging. What's odd is I feel the worst when I stop and restart.
Between the nature of the trail and the elevation, the time spent pedaling was almost none as compared to pushing and carrying.
Really struggling at this point. I can't keep up with Ricardo anymore. It's odd because I have to push real slow. If I stop and then restart, it's worse. But I can't go too fast because my heart rate just goes through the roof. So I'm doing okay, but this is immensely challenging. It just started to snow. I hope it's just that tiny little cloud. I'm not good at all. I really want to make it, but safety goes first. I am between excited and exhausted.
Remember that distant snowy ridge I had pointed at from the trailhead and then the first clearing? Inching closer to 14,000 feet, we were eye to eye with it. It is really crazy to see the distance covered and elevation gain when reviewing this footage. Since progress on the trail is so slow, you don't seem to notice it as much when it's real time.
The weather up here is ever changing. Nice and sunny. There's no way to know if it's a 15-minute window or we're gonna luck out the rest of the way. I can't do more than like 10 steps before I stop each time. This is hard. This is really hard. I'm basically there. I just got this final push to go, but gotta say, I can do like 3 steps before I stop. The last few steps to the absolute peak.
And so, after 6 hours and 27 minutes, we had summited Mount Elbert at 14,439 feet. For a very brief moment, there was no one in the contiguous 48 on solid ground standing at a higher elevation than us. Well, except if there happened to be somebody summiting Mount Whitney at the same time, but we'll just go for us having bikes to keep it unique. Even with this video, it's hard to put into words how hard this was for me, so it was enormously rewarding to make it up there with the crew and conquer this mountain that had been in the bucket list for way too long. We celebrated our triumph by sitting on a small shielded rock pocket and basking in that feeling of nature that cannot be described or captured. I never got to take an actual temperature reading, but it didn't take long for it to become overwhelmingly cold. So our stay at the peak was relatively short.
Well, this was awesome. We made it to the top. I enjoyed the view. I cannot take it anymore. It's so cold. As ready as we're gonna be to go down. Gotta admit, I'm a little bit nervous about that descent. Going all the way down to those lakes down there. It's insane. We're so far up.
And so we set out to reap our second reward of the day with over 5,000 feet of descending ahead of us. The top of the mountain is extremely loose with pebbles that roll instantly with any braking or turning applied. One thing that I haven't mentioned about elevation is that your head isn't really all there. With the lower oxygen, even if you feel fine, decision-making and reaction times are impaired. This is something I'm quite cautious about, so things that I would have ridden elsewhere without consideration, here they made me pause. My fear of misjudging was quite high, and with the remote nature of the area, the risk taken had to be less. To illustrate this mental block, at this point I had the craziest headache, and despite having ibuprofen in my emergency kit that I always carry in my backpack on longer trips, I never connected the two, and instead, I rode all the way down with a crazy headache.
This is so loose.
While the famed GoPro effect prohibits from capturing it, some sections at the top are quite steep, especially when you factor in the very loose terrain. In my opinion, this makes for great riding as the experience is varied instead of just the same thing the whole way down.
Oh, my head.
Since we had pushed most of this on the way up going so slowly, I hadn't detailed the terrain, and it was actually surprising to see how rocky it was on the way down. With dozens of loose baby heads all over, it was actually quite easy to get pushed offline. This top section was a technical rider's dream playground. Being completely natural with no human grooming or features, it seemed as if somehow this was the most pure form of mountain biking. Looking around to see an infinite field of unrideable rocks made the experience just that much more awesome, and the infinite views of the wide valley floor so far below tied everything together.
Yeah, time to walk.
This particular reroute of the trail is extremely narrow as hand-placed rocks to emulate stairs. In order to provide good support, the builders placed standing rocks on the sides of the steps. These are great for stability, but they're also great to catch your pedals and send you flying. Due to this, we ended up alternating between riding and walking our bikes through the section. And yes, I'm sure this could be ridden by someone, just not by me and not on this day.
It's like, where even is the trail?
This section isn't all that long, and the bits that can be ridden are quite awesome and get your adrenaline going very quickly. After some more walking and riding, we had made it back to the fully rideable single track. Despite the signature SRAM brake squeal from all the snow on the rotors, it was nice to ride some smooth ground. At this point, the stairs that were placed on the trail were made from wood, as kind of ladders lying on the ground. On any normal day, this would have been kinda cool to ride, but with the headache I had on this day, each one of these steps would make my head pound like crazy.
That's so relaxing right now.
It's quite obvious as you're riding down this trail, when you reach the next quote-unquote elevation band, the terrain, the dirt, the trees, everything changes like a switch. The pure rock and scree nature of the trail is instantly gone, and instead, it's this dark dirt with rocks sprinkled into it. Riding goes from low-speed technical to just letting go and letting gravity do its job to get you flowing. Now at this point, my head was still pounding and each bump felt like a jolt to the base of my skull. But I was not going to let that ruin my ride for me. I cut it out of this video so it isn't boring, but I did have to stop every 5 or 6 minutes to take a break because of it. If you do decide to do this, make sure to carry your medicine and remember that it's in your backpack the whole time.
Oh my god, my head. Oh.
As the elevation dropped, my head did start to feel better, but the discomfort never went completely away. I can't even imagine the kind of conditioning that is necessary for people who do actual high elevation stuff like K2 or Everest, and even more so those elite few that have done it without supplementary oxygen. Elbert being a relatively noble 14er, it really puts into perspective how amazing those people are. Anyway, approaching the treeline was a reminder of the variety of this trail. In one day having covered terrain with thick aspen forests, breaching the treeline into the plains, with small grass and flowers, and eventually continuing up to the tundra where it's only rock and moss. Having seen running streams, dry and moist trails, all the way up to the snowy peak. This is a truly special one that I would recommend for anyone that can pull off the conditioning for it. And yes, it may be a hiking trail primarily, but this is one of those occasions where I'd wager it makes it even more special. Obviously, as long as this is the kind of experience that you're seeking. I do hope to come back someday and get a chance to spend some more time at elevation before tackling this ride. This section in particular could have been ridden so much faster in the ride mindset.
Oh yeah. That was awesome.
Honestly, I know it looked kinda lame on video, but at the time, I couldn't believe I had pulled that one off. For some reason I can't really explain, I found it to be particularly scary. These water bar staircases would mark the end of the actual South Elbert Trail and lead us to rejoin the famed Colorado Trail to ride all the way back to the car.
Instead of taking the same fire road we did to come up to the second trailhead, we're taking the CT back down just to enjoy a little bit more of the flowy trail. This has been an exhausting day, so this is a really nice reward. It's so easy and so flowy in comparison to everything that we've done.
Plus the scenery with the yellow aspens was just so enjoyable.
Oh shit. Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo-hoo. I almost went off.
This being my only close call for a ride that was this long is actually quite a success. In the end, none of us had any mechanicals or crashes the whole ride, which we're just so grateful for. After one last stretch through the aspens, the forest opened up and the lakes below were clearly visible and close. It was a bittersweet sign that we were approaching the end of our ride. This lived up to all the hype I had made for it in my mind, and I know I'll come back to tackle it once more someday. If you're into the backcountry experience, this is one that you have to have on your bucket list. Fair warning though, it requires a lot of training. I spent months hitting the bike trail multiple times a week beforehand, and it still took absolutely everything in me to make this happen. We were all pushed to the extremes of our fitness and needed insane amounts of food and sleep after this to recover. After all, we had more riding to do the next day.
What a huge day. Absolutely exhausting. There's our car, trailhead. We have officially made it back. Man, can barely pedal anything at all.
I owe a huge debt of gratitude to Ricardo and Angel for encouragement as a crew to push through this and tick this one off the bucket list. Riding with the right group makes a huge difference.
We are back at the trailhead, but I mean, wow. I'm exhausted. I'm half dead. I'm stoked that I made it up there, but maybe the most challenging ride I've ever done in my life. Wow, when you look at it from here, it's like a million miles away. That's it for today. I hope you've had fun with us going up there in that insanity. I will see you for the next one, and happy riding.